From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. For the rest of the summer, we'll be presenting best of segments from our first 6 months of covering the regime and the resistance. This episode features clips from January 23rd and 26th, 2025. That would be episodes 497 and 498. Well, we're here. Well, this is it. We're in 2.0, and people have been warning us for a long time. Don't chase every shiny object. He's going to tweet and say obnoxious and annoying things and outrageous things. He's going to, every day you wake up, you look at the news, there's going to be a headline. And we've been told, okay, just don't get sucked into it. And I agree. I agree with that. I've preached from that same sermon, I think. The other side of that coin is there's just no getting around it. We have to know the difference between the trivial, shiny objects and the things that really matter. So, no, I'm not going to chase shiny objects, but I will not ignore things that matter. I'm not going to pretend everything's okay. I'll try to keep an eye on myself and make sure I understand the difference between the things that really matter, the stories that we have to know about and we have to do something about, and then those that are just fodder for distraction or entertainment. And you tell me if I go awry here, because I'm gonna try not to do that. But the fact is, it's begun. It's week 1. He is hitting us with a barrage of cannon fire here right out of the gate, as we knew he would. No big surprise. That's part of the story. Are we capable of being surprised anymore? I think the full pardon of virtually every J6 insurrectionist surprised a lot of people. I have to confess, I'm still surprised occasionally. He keeps showing us what he's capable of. So we're here. And we can't turn away. I should say many of these executive orders just blatantly unlawful, and he knows it, because this is how he operates, and this is what we need to understand. This is part of his authoritarian game. He knows perfectly well that many of these orders, such as the end of birthright citizenship, are blatantly unconstitutional. He knows they are, but he doesn't care. And it's more than just not caring. He really believes that he can get away with some of this stuff because he's got courts in his pocket. He's got the Supreme Court in his pocket. So he believes there's still 9 men and women with flesh and blood. Well, 7. I can't say that for Thomas and Alito. I don't know what they are. But there are still 7 men and women of flesh and blood on that court we can hope might surprise us and do the right thing occasionally. Yeah, he doesn't care about the law. We've seen it many, many times over and over again. He's going to continue to break the law. He thinks he can get away with it, and in many cases, he may well be right. Completely ending diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI programs, not only in the U.S. government, any DEI programs in corporations. He will use his power, the power of the federal government, to go after those programs as well. Many have already acquiesced, the bending of the knee ahead of time. Those who try to hold out will feel the wrath of the federal government. We're out of the Paris Agreement. Everybody expected that. It's happened. Any kind of initiatives toward fighting or at least mitigating the effects of climate crisis are done for 4 years, at least from the federal level. We still have state governments, which is great, and they can still make progress in that area. We still have private corporations, some of whom are trying to do the right thing. But from the federal level, no, it's all gone. Any kind of climate initiative, including the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, which was heavily geared toward that issue. The Orange Man is going to do everything he can to claw back on that. The rounding up of illegal immigrants, the reckless rounding up, regardless of family status or whether or not they've committed crimes. That's imminent. He's pretty much frozen the entire bureaucracy as far as the executive level agencies that he's in charge of. The headlines I'm seeing here, they're pretty much frozen in place. He's literally not allowing them to follow through on any initiatives that may have already been in the pipes. Literally disallowing them to even communicate with the public. Shutting down all communications until they're completely in charge. Which was, I don't have the quote in front of me, but that was basically the quote. Until we are completely in charge. The pardons are an absolute disgrace, travesty. It's about as low as you can go. Virtually every person either pardoned, well, all of them pardoned except for 14 were commutations. Of these people pardoned, 174 of them used weapons. They were armed. They injured cops. 4 or 5 of the cops died. We've all seen the footage. Hammering away with baseball bats, with flagpoles. Just brutal beatings. Everybody. It's all okay. Oath keepers, the 3 percenters, the guys convicted of 20 plus years for sedition. Free. So, all right. You got your army now. You got your little SS thugs out there ready to stand back and stand by. I won't get back into this because we've talked about it plenty, but I will never forgive Merrick Garland for doing nothing, sitting on his damn hands for 2 years. Yeah, sure, he's the one that convicted all these people that were just pardoned. All well and good. The largest criminal conviction in the U.S. history. Yeah, okay, fine, take a bow. But I would much rather have the Orange Menace, if not behind bars, at least barred from ever running again for president, which should have been the case. He should have been tried and convicted by the U.S. Senate, so I'll never forgive Mitch McConnell for letting him slip through that unscathed. And I'll never forgive Merrick Garland for sitting on his hands for 2 years. He could have gotten the Orange Menace. He could have got him tried, convicted, and in jail. So none of this should even be happening. But it is. And again, we're in week 1 and we're in a new world. Not an unforeseen world. We've been warning about this. How long have we been warning about this? For 3 years? When he announced his candidacy when? Shortly into Joe Biden's term. We all knew there was a good chance he was going to get the nomination. And then once he did, we all knew there was a good chance he could win. We've been warning about this. It's not like, you know that scene in Monty Python and the Holy Grail? The 2 guards at the castle, and they see the marauders coming at them from a great distance, and they just stand there, look at each other, look at them, do absolutely nothing until they're right at their throats with their swords. That was us. That's us. That's us. We're the guards of the palace on Monty Python and the Holy Grail. We just stood there and watched it for 3 years. Did nothing about it. So, okay, birthright citizenship. Yep, going to try to get rid of that. Against the law, he doesn't care. He revoked the Equal Employment Opportunity Act that goes all the way back to 1965. Part of the Civil Rights Act. It's all about, to take a broad sweep at this philosophy here, yeah, and you hear it from your crazy uncle, this sort of thing that doesn't exist, this reverse racism. They defile the words of Martin Luther King, and they say we should be colorblind. But basically what that means is that it refuses to acknowledge any wrongdoing for 400 years of history against women, against LGBTQ, against people of color, especially against Africans stolen from their land to come and be slaves. Oh, first you can't teach it because it makes white people uncomfortable. Poor little Johnny might feel uncomfortable. So we can't teach it. And now we can't even acknowledge that it had any impact at all on our history, on ourselves as a nation, on our institutions. No, that's completely denied. So they use the language of colorblindness to put the kibosh on any efforts we might make to rectify the problems of 400 years of racism and sexism and homophobia, etc. So you can't have any DEI, can't have any affirmative action, can't have any program or legislation or anything at all that tries to right 400-year wrongs. So this is pure, unadulterated white supremacy dressed up in the words of racial equity. It couldn't be more disgusting. So yeah, DEI is just gone. It's gone. It's gone. Withdrawal from the World Health Organization. Paris Climate Accord, of course, we're withdrawn from that, as we knew we would be. Again, 4 years from the U.S. federal government. Zero. In fact, not just zero support, 100% antagonism for anything that seeks to avoid or mitigate climate crisis. Drug prices that were slashed through Medicare and Medicaid by the Biden administration, that's gone. Pharma has free reign again to charge whatever they want. Hundreds of executive orders, many of which are foolish or against the law, but, he'll see what he can get away with. All this is not going to age well. If you're wearing your red MAGA hat, this is not going to age well, I guarantee you. You are the villains and the douchebags of history. It's the most optimistic thing I can say today is it's not going to last. That's the most optimistic thing I can say. The people they won't have it. The problem is, I can't guarantee that, and it might very well be the case that at some point, and we may already have reached that point, it doesn't matter what the people want. It doesn't matter. Because there's just nothing they can do about it, because now we officially live under an authoritarian. And the repugnant party is lockstep with them. And it's now. And if you don't think you're going to be hurt by this, well, first of all, you're wrong. Everyone will be hurt. The old saying goes, justice denied for anyone is justice denied for everyone. Climate crisis continues to get worse and worse. Inequality, again, like justice, it's bad for everybody, even if you're one of the rich ones. It turns out to be bad for everybody. So if you don't think you'll be hurt, you're probably wrong. Or maybe you think you won't be hurt by any of this, and maybe you're right. Because after all, this is going to work for some. A lot of people are going to get up every day and they're going to go to their little cushy jobs, or they're going to collect their dividends because they're shareholders, or whatever your particular case is. That's kind of the way authoritarians work. Yeah, there's a swath of people who do pretty well. You got to have enough people to sort of guard the gates. So yeah, you might be fine. You might benefit from this. You're a beneficiary. So if you don't think you're going to be hurt, and maybe you won't, well, that means then you will benefit from this authoritarian government. And then the only question that remains is, you okay with that? Do you want to turn a blind eye to everything that's happening so you can benefit? Or do you want to see the truth about what's happening? In which case, well, you got to make a decision. You're going to be okay with this and be a beneficiary? You're going to fight it and be a revolutionary? Because those are your only two options right now. Because we no longer live in a democracy. We haven't for a long time, but at least it was kind of subtle. And there were little fires here and there, little bits of democracy would pop up once in a while. But those days are just gone. We don't live in a democracy. But we're not a democracy. We're a republic. We don't even live in that. We do not live in a representative republic. When the ruling party, the Republican Party, holds majorities in the House, the Senate, the White House, and the Supreme Court, are all falling in line, lockstep, goose step, with the Orange Menace. It's not a democracy. It's not even a representative republic. You call it lots of things. It's a caca. What have I heard? Cacistocracy. That's the rule by the worst people. Kleptocracy, the rule of thieves. Plutocracy, the rule of the moneyed. Autocracy, the authoritarian. Oligarchy, the few rich, the billionaire tech bros. And the opposition party, the Democrats, from what I can surmise right now, they're kind of split down the middle. Half of them literally capitulating. Oh, well, we'll try to work together. And so half are capitulating, half are feckless. A couple of them, Adam Schiff and Raskin, a couple of these guys, the usual suspects, they have a little bit of rhetorical flair and they'll voice their outrage. But how far has that gotten us in the last 30 years or 40 years of this slide? And especially the last 10 years of the horror from this guy. So we don't have an opposition party. It just literally doesn't exist. So it's time for us now. We're all we've got. And as we begin this era, we're all we've got. We have, for all intents and purposes, entered a new era. There has been a seismic shift. If you don't understand this, if you think it's all just talk, oh, I'm not into politics. No, you can't say that anymore. You're not allowed to say that anymore. You are either a beneficiary or a revolutionary. You have to decide. So I'm asking you to make the right decision. We only have ourselves. We don't have the Democrats. They're not going to save us. We can still ask them, demand that they do the right thing. Of course, do that. As I've said many times, we have to thank God for the ACLU and support them. They're hard at work preparing cases against half of these ridiculous presidential orders. We got a couple of Democrats in Washington. Maybe they can do the right thing, say the right thing. But it's really up to us. There are some state governments, some attorneys general in, I think, 22 states have already gotten together to fight in court some of this ridiculousness. We have to support local alternative parties. You and I, we talked about this a little bit last week. We're going to talk about it in more detail in the coming weeks because this is what it's all about now, you guys. We have to support local alternative parties. And then the most important thing of all, and this is what we have to dig into some detail here in the coming weeks of our new era. General strikes, general boycotts. We have to get real about this. We have to do some serious talking about how and when to strike and to boycott. General boycotts. And you can start that right now as an individual. Because the people in power, you can count them on one hand. It's the Orange Menace and his little tech bro billionaire friends. And all the sycophants are just falling into line. You know, Mike Johnson doesn't have any power. John Thune doesn't have any power. So if we want to enact any change, if we want to fight back against what's happening right now, this complete lack of power of the citizenry, well, at least that's what they think, but we still have the power, and all they care about is money. That's the only thing that hurts them. It's their only Achilles heel. It's the only way to reach them. And I happen to think, and again, we'll talk about this in detail in the next few episodes here, because we need to be serious about this. Boycott basically all corporate goods. Go local. Everything, first, buy nothing. And what you absolutely have to buy to survive, food, clothing, etc. Yeah, we have to have some consumer goods. I'm not saying we don't. Of course we do. To the greatest extent you're able, reuse, buy local. Even more important, give what you have freely. Take what you can from those who are giving in the spirit of mutual aid. But the main thing is we have to withdraw our money from the system. And at some point, and this we have to do together, doesn't do a lot of good for you to do this on your own, you just hurt yourself. But at some point, we have to get organized enough for a serious general strike. If we can have enough people in this country to say, nope, it's enough, that's enough. We're not going to participate anymore in your corrupt, evil system. It's over. You no longer have the benefit of our labor. We're not going to lay our bodies down as a sacrifice for your next $1 billion. So That's where I am today. That's what I'm thinking today. And that's where we're going to go in future episodes here on the log. Support the people doing their best right now as we stand. Like I say, the ACLU, some Democrats, the AGs, alternative parties. But when it comes to us, you and me, and the only people that can really get this done, it's going to take millions of us. And it's got to start somewhere. But what I see is the only alternative right now, and let's get organized, general boycotts, general strikes. And we have to put together a very nice foundation of local mutual aid in order to make either one of those possible. So that's where we're going here in future episodes of The Log. And I hope you'll join me and share the information. Yep, boycotts, strikes, and mutual aid. That's all I see ahead. I see no other solution. I'm heartened by the fact that I'm sensing that more and more and more people every day are really starting to understand that the current system is bad. Not just that the Orange Menace is bad. There's plenty of that going around too. But the system itself. So at some point, we have to talk about that in a positive way. Happy to see that it looks like more and more people are getting it. The next step I'm not seeing, though. No one has any good suggestions on what to do about it. And that's what I've been trying to do. In fact, the suggestions we're getting are really pretty weak and bad, if we get any at all. So start thinking about that. The fact that more and more people understand it's not just that the one particular large, bloated orange man is a bad person. We all understand that. But the system itself that allowed him to emerge, the entire Republican Party that has fallen in line, these are huge systemic problems that need to be dealt with in a very serious way. And the sort of anti-capitalist, post-capitalist sermon that I've been preaching, I'm hearing the same sentiments from many voices now. We got to get past this. Especially, people talk about profit. We have to put profit away. Profit can't be our incentive. All the things you and I talk about all the time. Are you seeing this in your social feed, in your conversations with friends and family? Because I am. I'm seeing it all over. A real better understanding from a lot of folks that we have to get past the way we've been doing things fundamentally. Yes, of course, there's a very, very bad man doing very bad things in the Oval Office. And we're going to talk about that right now. But just put that in your head as something that, put a pin in that, as they say in corporate speak. The big news of the week, of course, at least the last couple days, the purge. And, it's all about the purge. That's just happening. The purge is on. They fired inspectors general, several of them, illegally, by the way. It's not legal to do such a thing. But, in the dead of the night, the Orange Menace fired a couple of dozen inspectors general. They're the people who, I'm reading from Salon here, give them credit. Tasked with independent oversight and efficiency monitoring inside the federal government. According to Politico, the nonpartisan bureaucrats that Trump fired work in the departments of state, agriculture, interior, transportation, education, labor, and defense, among others. It's a widespread massacre, an unnamed inspector general who got the axe told the Washington Post. Whoever Trump puts in now will be viewed as loyalists, and that undermines the entire system. Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of an inspector general, that they be independent. That's the defining characteristic of the job description. So, as promised in Project 2025, the purge is on. Inspectors General, just the latest, Russ Vogt, Director of Office and Management and Budget, one of the primary authors of Project 2025. Russ Vogt is all about that, all about the purge, and it's happening as we speak. Career civil servants being fired outright, being reassigned to be replaced with loyalists. This is fascism 101. It's happening. I would say the other sort of top-line event that's happened here in the last 24, 36 hours is the outright and just shock and awe, all-out blitz attack on civil rights. If you're not a white, male, straight, cis person, you're in trouble. Every initiative, every program, every law, every policy, any office, any personnel, anything that had anything to do with civil rights for women, for LGBTQ folks, for people of color, any sort of protections, gone, just ripped out of the heart of government, just gone overnight. As Occupy Democrats called it, a massive gift to the neo-Nazis who voted him in. Ordered the Justice Department to freeze any civil rights litigation. Just drop anything that's in the works. Drop cases. There were a couple of consent decree orders. The Department of Justice went into the Minneapolis Police Department and, what was the other one? Memphis? I don't want to say because I forgot the second one. But there were two major city police departments the Justice Department found guilty of massive civil rights violations, and there are orders in place to right those wrongs. By order of the Orange Menace, those are just done. Now, local officials and state officials say they'll continue with their efforts, but as far as the federal government's concerned, civil rights just basically don't exist anymore. We talked recently about this whole meritocracy thing. They love the word meritocracy. And they use it as an excuse to just strip any and all civil rights protections out of the law. Your crazy uncle at Thanksgiving, your crazy racist uncle, is in charge now. The Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice is just basically gutted. It just literally doesn't exist at this point. These are basic fundamental laws that prohibit discrimination. They're just gone. You've been listening to a best-of episode of The Log, featuring clips from January 23rd and 26th, 2025, episodes 497 and 498. Find all episodes on the website, charlespurcell.com, or on your favorite podcast platform. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. Follow me on Substack and Blue Sky. Peter Donalds wrote and performed our theme song. I love you. See you out there.